Welcome to another St. Pete by Night production. The following is rated for mature audiences and may contain graphic themes that will be distressing to some viewers. As always, we recommend you ensure the safety and well-being of yourself and those around you at all times. Viewer discretion is advised.
In the heart of night, we rise from shadows, howling at the moon, igniting our battles, cleansing dire of an endless fight, until our final days we will fight. Thanks, man, we stand united as one. Evil spirits lurking with horror and dread. Little light leads us where the brave dare tread. Glory and honor, wisdom in our hand. Together we rise, take our final stand. Everywhere we run, the wind is at our back. All the warring forces we will track. From the depths of the ocean to the clouds in the sky, vampires tremble as we learn to fight. Rage across Tampa, in this fight we'll stay. Evil spirits lurking with horror and dread. Little light leads us where the brave dare tread. Glory and honor, wisdom in our hand. Together we rise, take a final stand. Rage across Tampa, in this fight we'll stay. Everywhere with the pack, let the night be our guide. In battles of honor, we shall never hide. Fuck 'em, never hide.
Good evening and welcome to the St. Pete by Night Entertainment Network. St. Petersburg by Night is an online World of Darkness role-playing community originated in St. Petersburg, Florida, but now expanding to the world as we know it. My name is Kent, also known as Kent on all social media, and I will be your storyteller tonight, and it's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. It's time for Rage Across Tampa, our Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition chronicle set in the city of Tampa, Florida, and it's a very special and auspicious occasion that you have tuned in for because it is our season 4 premiere, and we are bringing all kinds of new and exciting things to you. Piney Point is finally over. I'm sure everyone is as excited as I am for that, but anyway, we are going to be getting into some new stories, some very, very intense and world-defining stories this season, so you're going to want to stay tuned for every episode of season 4 because you don't want to miss out. You're going to meet some new people, you're going to go some new places, and you're going to experience some very, very interesting developments. But before we get into all that, why don't you go follow St. Pete by Night on all of that social media down below, and you can join our Discord of over 150 plus World of Darkness denizens by following the Discord link in the description. And we're happy to announce a new development for the World of Darkness community, and more specifically the St. Pete by Night community, because now we are offering memberships over on Ko-fi that will give you access behind the scenes, as we are now going to be posting episodes of our post-session Rosebud Thorns, so you can see the discussion amongst the players as they finally step away from being guru and return to being just plain old humans with thoughts and feelings and opinions and all that kind of good stuff. So you can tune in and see those, but you have to be a Ko-fi member in order to do so. So you can follow the link to our Ko-fi also listed down below and sign up for a membership. There are tiers as low as $5 and our maximum tier of $10 minimum. But of course, you can always donate more than that on a monthly basis. I know I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure our players and community members would appreciate it. But head on over to Ko-fi and sign up and become a member so that you can see that exclusive behind the scenes content. You can get discounts on our merch shop. You can get all sorts of benefits for being a Ko-fi member, and I encourage you to go do that. But now let's get to what you're all here to see by introducing the amazing players and some new additions that make Rage Across Tampa possible. Players, go ahead and introduce yourselves if you please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Champ, Champagne, Poop, Fart, Barf, whatever you want to call me, and I will be playing Aspen Wise, Violet Ox of the Silverfangs.
Hi, everybody. I am Nori, and I will be playing Malicious Jester, the Black Fury Galliard.
Everyone, can't say I've ever pooped, farted, and barfed at the same time. I'm Preston. I play Jason Dreams and Decay Thorn, Theurge of the Bone Gnar.
Howdy do, how are you? My name is Nicholas, you can call me Nick. I can't say I've ever defecated or anything, just I've been a perfect homunculus being. And I will be playing a new face, Izzy, aka Entwined Smiles with Claws, an Arun child of Gaia.
Hi, I am Knack, and I will be hopefully not doing any of those things, especially not on stream, but have done all of those things, unfortunately, all at the same time. But tonight I won't be, and I'm going to be Murphy, the unwitting kin.
Champ, I almost choked on my drink, so thanks for that. And for those who haven't experienced all three, have you really lived? That's a question I want you to mull over. Anyway, let's get everybody caught up as to where we are and where we're going heading into season 4. Season 3 finally saw the end of Piney Point, the destruction of the entity, the corporation that has been causing problems in Tampa for about a year at this point, as their infected plants spread across the area and began to infect people. But when the pack got to Piney Point and launched an all-out assault with the help of the Hellhounds and other Farah, they were able to dispatch of the source of the problem, being a changeling worshiper of Balor, who was responsible for this strange crossover of both Banes and plants and the infection it was causing. It didn't come without a potential high cost, as Jester was afflicted by some sort of unknown eldritch magic that caused Wolfsbane to literally sprout from her body and inform her of an allergy she had not been quite aware of up until that point, that almost sent her into, well, the great beyond of living as a tree. But thankfully, due to some quick thinking from Aspen, she was able to use one of Spud's blood bags to take care of the problem by literally shoving and pouring the blood into one of the holes that had appeared on Jester's torso from the growing plants. And the mist that was laced with iron that started to pour out of her managed to destroy most of the plants within her. At the same time, Jace put an end to the changeling threat with a literal bullet to the head, but because of a rampaging and frenzying Charles, it just only caused the Arun's attention to shift to him. And having no control over himself, he began to attack Jace. With Jester returning to consciousness, she was able to get Charles's attention enough to stop the frenzy and potentially save Jace's life. But Jace is certainly going to remember those events and may hold it against Charles for quite some time to come. After that, the pack began their new moon ritual of opening the cairn once more to new dedicants, those who were willing to swear themselves to the fight for Gaia beyond just the living mortal coil or the Guru existence, but indefinitely until either apocalypse or victory comes to the Guru Nation. And Jace made the pledge and the oath to join the cairn. Now, it's been a few days, weeks, months. We're going to get people caught up on time that has passed since the destruction of Piney Point, where we have seen the plants start to wither and wilt away, the infection completely removing itself from the area upon the death of the changeling. But we also have some business to take care of. And while we tend to avoid getting into these kinds of mechanics on this stream, we're going to start to introduce them by going over some Hirano and Hoglosk stains that were accrued by our 3 pack members at the battle for Piney Point. So Aspen, let's go ahead and start with you. How many Hoglosk and Hirano stains did you have?
1 of each.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start with Hoglosk by having you roll however many full dots of Hoglosk you have. And if you don't have any, it's a minimum of 1 die. A success will clear the stain without you accruing another full point, but a failure means more of the bitey, angry, uncontrolled rage growing within Aspen.
Okay, I have 2 Hoglosk as of right now. And I rolled a 6 and a 5.
Okay, well, a 6 is enough to clear the stain, keeping you at 2 Hoglosk. But now we have to go to the more depressing side of things by having you roll however many dots of Hirano you have.
That would be 0, so I will roll you 1 die.
Perfect.
A 5.
Okay, so with all that happened, all of the expenditure of planning and anger, and maybe it was seeing the dead Ratkin who was assisting in the assault on Piney Point. Maybe it was the risk to Jester's life, or maybe it's just exhausting being a guru, especially in times like this. Hirano begins to set in as you have a full point of Hirano now. Jester, how many points of Hoglosk and Hirano do you have?
I have 1 stain and against Hoglosk, and I have no actual Hoglosk.
Okay. So you're going to roll 1 dice. 6 and above means the stain is cleared. 5 and below means you grow a little angrier.
I got below 6, so I will be gaining that point permanently.
These fights don't come without a cost, and it seems everyone is taking that cost so far. But Jace, save us by telling us how many stains you have and how many full points you have.
I have only 1 stain in Hogloss and only 1 actual permanent Hogloss, so I'll be rolling 1 dice.
Dice.
I got a 9.
With a 9, the stain is cleared. Though there may be some anger remaining, it is not of an uncontrollable nature. You are able to hold on to that anger and use it however you choose. Although I guess it's more resentment at this point, or hurt towards Charles. But let's get into tonight's story by starting with you, Jace. Our story begins in a dream. As many of our stories, or at least every night for you, Jace, begins as such. However, this dream is contrary to most of the others you've experienced, because you find yourself at a crossroads of a dirt path that leads through a overgrown forest. In fact, it's a forest bearing a very strong resemblance to a place you visited only once before, the Dreaming, where the trees seem literally quite alive, not just with energy, but in their very nature and movement, in the sounds they make, in the wind blowing through their branches. At this crossroads sits a single bench where the road forks, heading off in 2 directions beyond. There's no one present aside from yourself and from the ever attentive energy of the dreaming around you. What would you like to do, and what's going through your mind?
He'll take a moment, really just take in the place that he's in once again, which then brings up his memory of the last time he was here, where he met Ravi, the individual who started off as just a strange being in the dreaming, who then became a very close confidant and friend later on. And so what started off, eventually he walk over to the bench, and these memories of the path that Ravi took him on, as he begins to sit down, the different conversations they had of him meeting him actually in the van, the long drive, and then eventually them getting to the bunker, and the conversation they had, the time they spent, and then his final breath that was his own doing to make his passing that much easier.
Remembering those final moments of Ravi as he was possessing, well, or inhabiting a young boy named Billy of about 13 years old, at least as far as he could remember, you can't help but remember thinking of how small and frail he looked. Just a child, even though he had the memories and existence of someone much, much older. There were so many stories you wanted to hear, so many conversations you wished to have. Unfortunately, those conversations cannot be had because of the Vined monstrosity who destroyed the bunker, who killed many of the changelings and took several others captive, Ravi being one that was lost to the Vined monstrosity. As you sit here and this memory is replaying in your head, you also remember the anger you felt. The anger towards Eshu, specifically. The elder fae-like being that has been visiting you, inhabiting you, maybe even possessing you from time to time because of the staff you took from Moses. This is how the whole changeling experience began for you. But Eshu has been suspiciously silent, regretfully silent. And this just causes you to grow a little bit angrier because maybe it could have all been prevented. Maybe Ravi didn't have to die. So as you sit here on the bench, these thoughts replaying in your head over and over, the shuffling of feet and the tapping of wood hitting dirt draws your attention towards one of the paths. Starts off as a figure in the distance, but it rapidly grows closer and closer. Coming into view is a man, maybe 18, 19 years old, with really, really dark skin. Almost the darkness of night. He wears patchwork traveler's clothes, well-worn shoes, and he carries a staff that looks very, very much like the staff that you have held for quite some time, the staff that was carried by Moses before that. On his back is an overpacked sack full of traveling supplies, possibly rations, everything one would need for a journey. And then atop his head, the most notable feature of all is a long hat that goes to a point far beyond his head at the back. Standing almost, and I regret using this word, erect, it goes out behind him, coming to a point. But the thing that is most notable about this hat is that it appears to be made of two different colored materials. One side is completely red, The other side is completely black. He approaches, coming to stop maybe about 5 or 6 feet away from you. And he looks to the bench and the space beside you. May I join you?
I don't see why not. He'll scoot over just a little bit to give more space.
He steps over to the bench, letting the staff rest against it between you and him. He takes his pack off his shoulders, and as it drops down to the ground, it comes with a heavy thud and the clattering of possibly metal, as well as the jingling of maybe coins and other implements. He lets out a heavy sigh as he unloads his burden and places his hands upon his knees, takes in a deep breath, and smiles. If only it were the real thing. But not yet.
Soon, maybe?
Yes, soon. You have earned that much, at the very least.
I try to keep my promises.
And you did. And I shall keep mine. I assure you of that.
He'll look down at the staff for a moment, then to the pack, and then the odd hat. And he'll kick the bag a little bit. So is this why you haven't been around?
I never left.
So you heard everything and you saw everything going on?
Yes.
Didn't think maybe you could pop out and assist with a few different things? You used me to dig your damn hole. I need you for one thing. And you didn't show up. It was to save one of yours.
It is not my responsibility to walk the path, but to show others the path. What happened needed to happen. And in this limited form, there was only so much I could do, and that doesn't prevent events from unfolding. It simply shows others the way, delivers the message.
Message was received loud and clear. The being that was causing so much issue, that killed so many of yours, it's been dealt with completely. And was able to get several of yours out.
I know. And I'm grateful. Make no mistake. You have accomplished incredible things. But do not mourn too deeply. For this is the existence of what we are. We inhabit, we exist, we die and return, only to once again inhabit once more. While Ravi and the others died, a terrible death I wouldn't wish upon anyone, they will return again someday. for they have gone back to the dreaming. And much like your spirits, they will return, albeit differently.
He'll nod a few times and exhale. I hear you. Your words are comforting to an extent. It's hard to have a dying child in your arms. So the thought of him coming back is great. And that he gets to live another life. I'm happy he's able to do that.
Because of you and your companions. Because of the work you did in eliminating the threat that would have seen them converted or destroyed entirely. That is your work, not mine. I just merely showed you the path to it. It doesn't make it easier. I know.
No. But speaking of my path, we did have a deal. He'll look down the path that Robbie took him on towards Turtle.
Unfortunately, we are not there now. This is merely a visage of it. Because there is something I need you to do, a final request, before I am able to grant you access.
The first one not good enough?
I think you'll find this one to be far simpler. He looks to the staff and he pulls it off of the bench. When this item was created, I was trapped. Yes, it was a key, an access point, but also a prison. The Magister who created such an item knew not what they were doing. They dabbled in things they couldn't begin to comprehend or understand, but they were of enough strength and power to alter the very reality of my existence and capabilities. They locked me within. I need to be set free. Only then can I truly grant you access. Only then can I continue to fulfill my purpose. Only then can I prevent such things from happening again and truly guide others along the Silver Road.
Look to the staff and look him in the eyes. And where does the key to your cell lie?
Well, currently, within you.
And how do I unlock it?
Destroy the
How
staff.
do I really... Okay. Should be easy enough.
He gets a small smirk at the corner of his lips. Don't be too hasty. For a great deal of power created such an item. And that power needs to go somewhere when it is destroyed.
That makes sense.
Ravi and the others have lived many lives, died many times. Just as you held the dying body of a child, so too have they once before, possibly many times. Thankfully, Ravi was aware enough to know of his existence. The others couldn't necessarily remember their pasts and most likely won't again when they reform. But know that you are not alone with the weight that you carry. For I have seen this story countless times throughout my existence, since the creation of everything.
Does it play out okay, or am I kind of on a doomed road? Being a guru, I know my road is already faulty.
Your path is an unusual one that I can't say I've seen in quite some time. The powers you have awakened, what you have signed yourself up for, it is quite unique. Your path only has one destination, no matter how many curves it takes, no matter how many times the road splits, it always ends up in the same place for you now. Your recent actions have made that so. But it was a choice you did not take lightly. So whether it ends up okay, as you put it, there are a lot of other factors that will determine the outcome of that. And while you still have breath in your body and blood coursing through your veins, you have the ability to affect and impact that outcome with everything you do, for better or worse.
Try for better. It usually bodes well better for everyone. You know, betterment of betterments. But you're saying that the power of this staff has to go somewhere. I can't, which makes sense as far as transfer of energy, but that's more of a science thing than this. But I understand the overall concept that you're talking about. When this is unlocked, does the power source need somewhere to go immediately, or can it linger for a bit, or do I need to have it prepped and ready to go?
The power will return to the weave, but it will do so violently and explosively. For this power that was used to manifest such an object, to create such a prison, is vast and great. And the destruction of it will set things aright, but it has the potential to destroy much more. For such uncontrolled energy, unless harnessed by someone who is knowledgeable in such energy, can become wild and chaotic. It will be brief. You are not unleashing a new threat unto the world. If anything, you are relieving the world of a threat.
Go. I will I'll confer with someone wiser than I am about this. You know, yeah, you know who she is. She might have an idea of how to make this better, work the the explosion in a more channeled and equal pattern. Chaos is not something that we say we thrive in, but organized chaos is more ideal.
We want the best odds of avoiding undue destruction. The best way to ensure that is to return it to its maker.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
And to convince them or remind them of their responsibility in harnessing the weave.
Last I spoke to them, they could barely form a sentence. They were scrounging for scraps. It was different when you inhabited them. It would make more sense. I don't even know where the guy's at.
You're a hunter, aren't you?
To an extent.
The road is not far. There are many paths that converge in the city to which you belong. But this one, the one you seek, he will not venture far. Besides, anyone knows about the potential for growth and redemption from coming from nothing and turning into something. It's you, isn't it?
Like you said, everyone's path is a little bit different. Mine had a few bumps on the road. Yeah, I got to where I'm at. He'll grab onto the bench, almost digging his hand into it. But when someone is in need or needs help, I have a hard time saying no to. And that includes your request and helping Moses. I will do what I can. But like I said, I spoke, he didn't. He's not the same person that he was. This convincing them that they need to return to maintaining what was there back to who they were is going to take time.
Aware. But how much time it takes, whether you believe it or not, is within your grasp, within your control.
I'll do what I can. I'll see that you are tended to. You're no longer stuck in a piece of wood.
When you're as old as I, there are very few surprises left in life. This was certainly one of them. Everything will be as it should. I have seen the path, I have walked it many times, and yes, it is often bumpy. and you may accrue the occasional rock within your boot that causes you to pause. But as long as you keep walking, you will get where you're supposed to go.
Tell me just to follow my feet.
As the one who coined the term? Yes.
Okay. He'll look down the path once again that Ravi and him went down. One question. There was a castle that Ravi and I passed that he said that we're not allowed to go to. He was saying that you see and have a lot of power, but you don't have necessarily power over that place. When this is taken care of and you fulfill your end of our deal, is that castle and those who dwell there going to be a problem?
Potentially. You are walking paths that weren't meant for you. Paths that your kind once visited, but it's been a very long time since then. Changing breeds were closed off from the world of the dreaming. It is very unlikely many of the denizens will openly welcome them back. Because yes, I am powerful, but I am also one of many children. And even I have parents.
I'm used to walking into places, people looking down and wanting me to leave, so should be okay.
My suggestion to you would not to even give them the opportunity to look at you.
Get in, get out. When we go through with this, we're leaving Turtle. I don't know if it's something that I'd be able to do on my own. Is there a way to enter the dreaming with more than one person?
I had a feeling you would ask. Yes. I will ensure once I am free,
Yes.
have the full use of my power, that I can take you and any you wish to bring with you to the dreaming. But you must remember to inform them of the threat of venturing off the path. Stick to the Silver Road. Be aware of those who also walk it. And all will be well.
Pretty simple rules.
He just smiles in response.
I want you to know I'm not mad at you, though. I just understand where your stance was on it. And just them calling you father got the idea of that in my head, of someone who would be there in a situation like that. And it sounded like you wanted to be, but couldn't.
In a way I was, because you were there. You helped return them to the dreaming, and you helped preserve others for their eventual return. I show the path. Others walk it. And they are my children. And I love them as any father should.
What do you want me to do with the remaining? I can try finding housing for him if need be. Now it's a lot safer for them.
You have done what you needed to. They will find their way.
Okay.
They are no longer your responsibility.
I'll try and remember that part.
Please do. You have done a great thing. And it's all right to be angry. This is an alien and foreign existence to you. And while we do have things in common, there's a lot more that we don't. And one of those things is an understanding that death isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of the next, and the next, and the next.
Before my time is done here, I'll try and wrap my head around that.
And unless there's anything else, it's time to wake up.
You'll
We will
reach his
likely
hand out.
only speak one more time.
Oh,
And then after that, likely never again. He reaches out and takes your hand. But know that I am grateful that it was you.
reach out whenever you need me.
He gets kind of a little bit of a wry smile to his face, almost mischievous. I won't. But you'll know when I'm around.
Yeah, you've been with me long enough. I have no sense of privacy with you, so it doesn't even matter anymore.
Well, thankfully, I will be able to return that to you once the staff is gone.
All right. He'll let go and which path to wake up?
He reaches out a hand and points down the path from which you arrived.
To our last conversation, and he'll smile and walk away.
As you step down the path, venturing back into the depth of the woods, you hear that same metallic rattling of the pack being lifted, but as you go to look over your shoulder, there's no one upon the bench. But there are footsteps upon the trail behind you. 2 sets that become one and continue forward. As you get to the darkness of the woods, the light that illuminates the trail behind you fading, fall back into the land of mortality, of the living, of the wild, the weaver, and the worm. More specifically, the worm. As you awaken. What's going through your mind after this conversation with the entity known as Eshu?
Every conversation he's had with Eshu, even when he was embodying Moses, is something that Jace has a lot of comfort with. But there is that aspect of releasing Eshu? Was he locked away for a purpose? That part of his mind that everyone has an angle, what's his, is kind of coming in after the conversation, but he knows that all these things that have been happening were for the betterment to release Turtle. Do the ends justify the means? Is this something that should be done? And that's where he gets to the point of realizing that he needs to have another conversation with the one far wiser than him that has had more experience in certain things. But he, as always, will wake up from his dream, go make himself his coffee and journal and write down everything that has transpired so he does not forget.
And with that, we transition to our next scene. Jester and Aspen. Jester, you spent several days recovering at the cairn following the events of Piney Point, being tended to by Jace, Aspen, and Eliza, being watched over by Charles, as long as you were willing to stay at the cairn. You still feel itchy at times. You still have an occasional rasp to your voice because an allergy causes rashes, and a supernatural allergy even more so. But because of the tending by Eliza, Aspen, and Jace, because of the power of this place that has become your home, there won't be too much lasting damage other than that on your psyche, having experienced something nobody can relate to, a horror that still occasionally enters into your dreams, a lasting gift from a servant of Balor. But Aspen, knowing that Jester has been recovering, it's time to move forward as any leader should. You can't dwell on the past for too long, or else it just holds you hostage. So you come to the cairn knowing that Jester is prepared to move home, to return to life as normal as it possibly can be for a guru. You want to check in with her, but you also have other things in mind. Plans. So as you arrive, finding Jester having packed up what few belongings she had at the cairn, few things that were brought to her from home, some creature comforts to make the recovery process easier. The scene is yours.
How are you feeling?
Better, honestly. Still kind of itchy, but better.
Did they patch you up okay? Do you need any help with that?
Did some today, and Eliza's done a great job, so I think I'm okay.
Shouldn't expect anything else from Eliza, but just want to double check. That was gross what happened to you.
Yeah, that's a word. That's definitely a word to describe it. I mean, yeah, Eliza did a great job, but you saved my life.
You're not leaving me here with them.
I will try not to.
I'd help you get home, but I feel like there would just be a smell of repression in the air that I don't want to deal with.
Glance over to where Charles might be, like, also packing his own things. Yeah, that makes sense. So, how have you been? You kind of got beat up too, you and Jace, right? Like, are you guys okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fairly okay. It's just nice to have it all over. I'm sure, like, we still have plenty of things to just make sure are all wrapped up so that that doesn't become a problem again, but just happy it's over. Jace has been
Weird.
weirder.
Okay, fine. Weird for Jace, yes. I don't. I'm not sure what happened at the end of everything. It's kind of been a blur. So I don't know. Should we just let it see if he deals with it, or should one of us talk to him?
Planning on talking to him just to see how he's doing. I don't know how much I'll get. You know, him doing the whole bonar thing, keeping secrets and not talking about himself, making it about everybody else. He thinks I don't see through it, but I do.
You mean that big smile he gives with that nod when he's like pretending he's okay with things, but obviously he's not?
Or makes a joke as if it's lighthearted and everything's okay. Yeah.
Well, don't knock that. I do that at times too, but yeah, yeah.
We've all got our coping mechanisms.
We do. We do.
Speaking of coping mechanisms, had some ideas of moving forward now that we're not being hit by threats of Piney Point and have a tentative truce with the leeches.
Oh, love to
Yeah,
hear them.
I think it's about time that I and anyone else who wants to help start reaching out to other Seps, kind of making amends with ones we've had issues with in the past, and reaching out to ones that maybe could be easy allies and, well, ones that I've never talked to ever. So,
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Jester, who's been at this time like kind of subconsciously occasionally rubbing her stomach, will just go and pull up one of the like uh little stools or chairs that they have and like sit down. So, which ones were you planning on going to first?
well, I think I might reach out to Terrence because that seems like an easy one. He's
It's a good one.
sweet bean and just, is loves to hear from us. And I think sweetening the deal with him knowing that there's a cute little wolf spirit within the cairn might soften the blow.
Two now, two. One he knows pretty well.
That's what I mean, is being able to see Aiden again, even if it's not physically, but knowing he's
Right.
around might help. I feel like he didn't get closure on all of that, and I want to give that to him. Same with Duncan, but Duncan's seen some things. Terrence is fairly new.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea to reach out to both of them. I mean, I know Duncan was here when Aiden died, but it might be good for him to like see him again though.
I thought so too. I think it's been, detrimental really in the healing of everyone here, and to deprive others that have had the same issues would be unfortunate.
Right. Oh, that's a good idea. You might also try the West Virginia Sept. They're they're kind of traditionalist, but also they're like also pretty good people.
They were willing to help you with something that most people believe doesn't exist anymore. So that's shows some good
Yeah,
faith, I guess.
it's actually kind of commendable because I'm pretty sure half them thought I was crazy.
They're not too far off.
see crazy shit become crazy.
That's how it works. I mean, I think we're the only group here that believe in all of these fairy tales since we've seen most of them firsthand.
Right? I didn't even mention like the fairies. Honestly, that's too far to make someone kind of have to be there sort of thing.
Yeah, and you're bringing up one extinct, not known creature. It's probably good to only bring up one at a time. Maybe the next meeting, but one at a time. I feel
Right.
like softens the blow.
But still, two of them went with me uh, into the cave to find White Bat. And honestly, I think it would have been much more difficult without them. So, and I think that what they saw helped form some bonds. So I think that they'd be open to more talking with us, more conversations.
If I go speak to them in person, would you want to come with me? And since it seems you have a bit of a rapport now,
Yeah, sure, I'd love to.
speaking of potential, you helping me with making good on situations, have you given any thought to Ravenclaw?
Uh, a bit. It's I had intended to try to contact Gibbous and well, at least see how she was doing. Already had a way to get in touch with her. As far as last I checked, Raven was blocking any sort of communication with her, but already said he had a way in, and I was going to call, but then all the insanity kind of happened and I lost track. But yeah, I still want to give them a call and try to start repairing that relationship.
You think she's one for holding a grudge, I assume?
Oh, absolutely. Not Gibbous, Raven, yes. Gibbous is she's more reasonable. She's like a little bright spot. Raven, probably the best way to mending that is she'd want you to apologize.
Right. I do think a conversation is necessary. I was hoping that it would be softer, seeing how it's been over a year, but if she's the grudge type, that we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but I can start opening communications that way. I could do it through Gibbous and then try to work towards setting up something between you and Raven if you want.
I also wouldn't want to step on any possible healing between the two of you before you could have your opportunity.
Nah, I think this could go hand in hand, honestly. I think she's more mad I chose your side than hers at me.
I mean, did you have a side? I mean, it was mostly someone else at the wheel.
That's fair. At least for that. But afterwards, I didn't. She pretty much demanded I come back to Colorado with her, and I chose to stay here. So that was on me.
It's strange.
Hmm.
Somebody not liking your individual choices and wanting you to go back with them isn't the whole point of mentorship for people to go out and make their own mistakes after giving them your teachings.
Yeah, but I think it's more of like she views as I didn't have her back.
I'm assuming this is like a Black Fury camaraderie thing.
Kind of, yeah. I chose a Silver Fang over her. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Not that we're all individual people who also have complicated things going on, but yeah. That's kind of what it is. So I don't think like you holding off on talking to her is gonna make things any better, or you talking was gonna make it worse. I think they're gonna probably go together pretty well.
Okay. I'll reach out to her and tell you all about it because I'm sure that'll be a great conversation.
Let me talk to Givus first, and then I'll just to get a temperature check kind of on how things are. It has been a while, so we'll see.
Okay. And what can you tell me about their sept, about them up there? I don't think I've, besides Gibbous and Ravenclaw, I've not really heard a whole lot of your time up there.
Well, it's mostly Black Furies. There are a few other possible tribes, or a few other tribes that pop up, but I don't think they stay long, honestly. It dealt with a lot of sabotage, protests against fracking and mining, and that's mostly what the SEP dealt with. Like, a lot of it was Indron and other companies like Indron that they fought against. So there were a lot of sabotage jobs. There were a lot of like, I was more on the activism protest side, but there were times that I also did some espionage, sabotagey things where I went in and broke some things, grabbed some information to try to, like, prove Indron was terrible, terrible people. Honestly, it was kind of safe, safer than Tampa comparatively. A few people died, but not a whole lot. Most of my time was like, well, a lot of it was training with Raven um, and Gibbous. But most of them, like, it was kind of like a sisterhood, but like one of those like sorority sisterhoods where there was a bit of there definitely a hierarchy and a little bit of mean girls going on. Like, if you didn't go with the whole practiced rhetoric that everybody believed, was kind of in it too, honestly. Thinking back now, like, I kind of see it.
I mostly avoided that kind of stuff. So not super familiar, but it seems nice to have a sisterhood in that.
It was nice. It was, but sisterhoods can be really backstabby too, so.
Fair, fair.
But nah, it was nice. Especially as much as, I say they could be backstabby, they also would straight up have your back against anybody who came at you. So there was definitely a protective sisterhood vibe.
You ever miss it up there?
Sometimes, but I mean, sometimes I just miss Colorado. Occasionally, I miss the snow. I miss hiking in the mountains. Yeah, I miss goofing off and hanging out with Gibbous and talking about different stories. But I have some of the things like that here. And I have you guys. I don't think, no, I wouldn't trade you at all for anything.
Well, good, because they'd have to fight me for you, and I'd probably
You might
lose
win.
that. Well,
I mean, you kind of a badass at this point.
gotten better. I'm no malicious jester, but
Yeah, well, you were up at the end. I was not. But also, Eliza was totally telling me about your, like, fight with the giant two-headed thing. Pterodactyl?
yeah, wasn't expecting that when we went out there. But you roll with the punches.
Yeah, that was pretty, from what she said, it was sounded pretty awesome. So, you might, stand your ground pretty well.
I have to tell you all about it, so that way you can, while you're healing, can tell Charles all about it.
Oh, definitely.
And then maybe record his reaction. I'd like to see that.
Okay, I will definitely do that. I'll make it look like I'm looking at the phone, but secretly recording him.
Yeah, there you go. I'll keep you busy. See what, see what happens.
Of course, I'm going to have to tell him afterwards that I recorded him, but, I need a natural reaction, not a he knows the camera's on reaction.
Right, because then he'll just sit there all stoic and act like it doesn't bother him. But you and me both will know. We'll know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because maybe, we're on good terms with She Who Shines now. Maybe she'd acquiesce to a spar.
I keep bringing that up, but he keeps saying it's not the same, so it's a rune. It's just a rune. It's an Arun thing.
I think I understand him. And then he does something strange, and I'm back to square one.
He just wants the challenge of knowing he can fight something big and giant that possibly no other guru has fought and beat it.
Oh, so he doesn't want to spar with She Who Shines because it couldn't be like a fight till the death or no
Pretty
hold
much.
bars. There has to be rules. Oh, okay. Okay, I think I get it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's an Arun thing, You get to take the biggest, baddest creature, and so you are the biggest, baddest monster to stand the ground.
I swear. Between him and Forged, we need no more Arun. There's too much energy. Big
Burly
at me.
energy?
Yeah, too much energy. No more.
Yeah, there is a lot. It's good when it comes in handy, though.
It does. Also causes problems.
How are they doing, the Hellhounds? Charles tells me little bits of what's going on, but
They really came through. They're really coming through on a lot of things. They seem to be working hard on themselves personally and better as a group, which is it's a nice thing to see. They've warmed up to this life faster, I'm sure, than others.
yeah. I'm glad. When they first got here, it was like almost as if they were hopeless, but I'm really glad that they are learning and growing. And they got to come through for us and for themselves.
Don't get me wrong, they still have their problems. That Ray is going to give me a brain aneurysm if Guru could die from brain aneurysm. But he'll get there.
A Sept Ledger, you could always ground him.
I could always ground him. We'll see.
I'll stand up. Well, I probably should get going. But I will call you this week, and so we can talk over plans on West Virginia and Colorado.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And call me if you need anything. I'm always around.
Oh yeah, I will. I will probably text you desperately at some point saying I am really bored and I can't leave the house and would like company. So that's gonna happen next week. I can predict it.
I'll sneak you out for a drive.
Yeah, sounds good. We can go on an adventure. Wait, I should probably not say going on an adventure anymore.
No, I just pick you up, throw you in the car, we go. We don't say anything. And then when I come back, I'll get an earful, but it'll be fine.
Okay, sounds fun.
So as the two of you part ways, having a plan for the future, albeit a rough one, to go and make contact with the Septs of the old nation. Some you've offended by your past deeds, others completely unfamiliar, unknown. You know a lot of what you've been doing is viewed as controversial. It has often been stated in regards to the new nation, if the old was working, we wouldn't need to be here. Things wouldn't need to change. Clearly, a change is necessary. You are that change, or at least hope you are. With that, we're going to go to our break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the second half of tonight's story. See you shortly. Welcome back. We return to our story with an introduction on more levels than one. Respect is a interesting thing because it's easily lost and hard to be gained. The story of Isidoro Darris, also known as Izzy, has a lot to do with respect. Respect earned, respect held, and respect lost. But it's not necessarily Izzy who lost that respect, but someone from Izzy's past, someone he considered a brother in arms, maybe even someone he looked up to for a time. But just as it seemed like that respect couldn't get any higher, couldn't get any stronger, just like that, it's snatched away. And everything that happens afterwards is like an avalanche, a cavalcade of events. Events that will be uncovered and explained over time, the more and more we get to know the guru known as Izzy. But for now, our story begins in a very familiar location, Morgantown, West Virginia, the home of a sept from the history of the Sept of the Evening Star. A place that made history of sorts, returning something of a myth to the world, redeeming an entire species of Pharaoh, believed to be long extinct. But for now, in this moment, it's a place where information is to be gathered, understanding is to be had, and a path is to be laid out in front of this guru. Izzy, you'd been hearing rumors for some time about an individual who passed through the area. An individual with a very recognizable name and a face that you can't get out of your head. Charles Albrecht, your once pack leader, brother in arms, at times mentor, and possibly even bordering on friend. Now, you had traveled together for quite some time with Charles, as he was making a name for himself, and by association, everyone he traveled with would earn a name for themselves as well. A fearsome warrior. But is he loyal? Because just as it seemed, after many, many months being together, traveling together, accomplishing success and victory in the fight against the worm, he was gone, like a ghost vanishing into the night. No word, no sign, no farewell, no explanation for his disappearance other than he was reassigned. Everything that happened after that was just one failure or loss after another. It's hard to believe that all of that could hinge on a single guru, but his departure left a mark deeper than just the breaking of a friendship. The stability of your pack as a whole, a pack that you essentially inherited after his departure, just became weaker and weaker. Cracks started to form. Betrayal, death, destruction. All signs of the worm. So as you find yourself in the Morgantown Sept, high within the mountains of West Virginia, the snow still clinging to the ground after the recent snowstorm that battered the entire Midwest and Southeast of the country. The cold can't even begin to touch the stone that your heart has become because of the events of the past few years. But having heard that Charles Albrecht passed through this area not too long ago, you come here looking for answers, looking for explanations. You've been welcomed into the Sept. You know the customs, you know the rights, you know what it is to be Old Nation, having been raised in a Sept of the Nation before finding your own way beyond. Charles was very much stressing the customs of the Old Nation in your teachings as young Guru. So after your introduction, being brought up to the Sept, being offered hospitality, a place to stay, food, some permissions to hunt in the nearby area if that fits your liking, you finally get a meeting with two of the elders of the Sept. A man named Mountain Claw, of very few words, but very much experience based off of the scars that line his arms, his head, and face. Ghost Council, Arun. Now that you can relate on, being Arun. And then there's Trillium, Children of Gaia, another way in which you can relate, a tribe mate, but very much the diametric opposite of Mountain Claw, as she is kind and gentle. She provides anything you could possibly wish for. But what you wish for more than anything in this moment is answers. So as you come to meet with them in what looks to be a constructed log cabin, though it does have one of the modern amenities of a fireplace grill, a contained stove with a pipe that goes up to the ceiling. And when I say modern, we're talking about maybe early 1900s modern, but compared to everything else you've seen, that's pretty modern for this area. They have a single landline phone. What's going through your mind as you prepare to open up conversation with the two elders of the Morgantown Cairn?
Yeah. Over the past however long he's been allowed into the cairn, he has been completely overwhelmed, both from without and within. On the one hand, he has to put out a very welcome face. He's a guest. He understands the rules and customs that if he trips up, especially now, it would be a very bad look. And simultaneously, he realizes, perhaps in the sort of self-conceit of his ego, that this is a very selfish and stupid thing he's asking to pursue. And so he's beating himself up over that. So he is trying to both keep the warmth of his smile and the coolness from his eyes.
So as a small meal is presented of very basic and earthy ingredients, obviously some leftover vegetables, mostly root vegetables that can grow in the winter, as well as some freshly roasted meat, likely from a recent hunt. Trillium looks to you with a beaming smile, a fondness already in her eyes beyond what would be normal for her, because she has a fellow packmate or a fellow tribe mate in residence. Something that doesn't happen a lot at this particular cairn. Did you get plenty to eat?
Oh, I couldn't eat another bite. I mean, and with that, he looks down at his bowl, making sure that he never eats more than his host.
Looking over towards Mountain Claw, you can see that he has devoured the entirety of the meal.
Oh, well, I mean, listen, if I don't want to leave you with leftovers, I'll happily take a bit more here. Come on. And with that, he'll scoop some more into his bowl.
As you have been here for maybe a day or two now, waiting for this meeting, Mountain Claw having been away for a while, but in knowing that he would want to be present for anything you'd have to say, you've been well taken care of. You've slept in blankets made of furs on a hand-carved wooden bed with a true feather mattress, which maybe is a little bit more uncomfortable than is advertised, but everything has been nice. But as you've kept your ear to the ground, you have heard talk of unusual and strange things that happened in the area. The return of a bat spirit, the preparation and building of a memorial site to a long-lost cairn, to a tribe you haven't even heard of. And the strangers from the south who came here to make these things happen. You even heard some talk about a werebat, but that can't possibly be true. So as you finish the last of your serving, Mountain Claw just crossing his arms over his chest and staring, but seemingly nonplussed by what you're doing, just observant. Trillium sparks the conversation up again. Well, now that we're all fed and everything is settled, you said you wished to speak. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah. First of all, once again, thank you for inviting me into your cairn. Obviously, times in the nation are a bit tough. I probably don't need to tell you about the recent fallout at the Northwest, the Midwest, rather. A lot of my old support network at the Echoing Roots gone, as I have found out, killed by those that dance the spiral. So I'm, just looking for old threads, you know what I mean? And it just so happens I heard on the Silent Strider rumor vine that apparently you somewhat recently had a couple of people come from somewhere. I'm not entirely certain where yet, but I'm hoping you're going to be able to fill me in on that.
At the mention of the Black Spiral Dancers, you actually see the lips pull back from Mountain Claw's very jagged and untended teeth as he lets out a small snarl. A sadness temporarily, momentarily crosses Trillium's eyes at the mention of your old Sept from Dayton having been completely destroyed. But then she speaks once more. Yes, we heard about that nasty business. Our condolences, of course, for all of our fallen brothers and sisters from the north. We were also warned about the possibility of continued aggressions, further development. So we have been ever watchful for any threats and have tried to keep our ears out for any news, but it's been silence ever since that dreadful day, it seems. Almost as if it's just a nightmare we're waking up from, but we understand the weight of it, the truth of it.
A long one. A very
Yes.
long one.
Well, yes, we did have visitors recently from the Sept down in Florida. They came up here to, well, fulfill a purpose, a mission, it seems. And while it was strange, unusual, and seemingly a fairy tale, they were right. As two of our other elders can attest, there was once a cairn in these mountains that had been lost for generations, it seems. Caved in, collapsed, but a spirit still dwelled within. And now that spirit is free and recovering, it seems, from being trapped for so long. But who in specific are you asking?
And for a moment, Izzy goes quiet as he thinks about the ways in which others in his pack, in his former pack, and in his wider life might have handled this with an underhanded comment here or a way to layer a lie there to coax something out. And yet, as a child of unicorn, he feels that he just does not have the sauce for it. Before he sort of... Okay, it's a long story. I guess to lay a bit of groundwork before I just ask. You've heard of the Piercing Moonrise pack, right? Former head here?
Yeah. We've heard of them, and she looks towards Mountain Claw, who just, his lips having closed once more. Yeah, I heard something about that.
Well, how much have you heard, and how old are the songs? Because some of the more recent ones aren't exactly my favorites, but the pack has been around for half a decade, I want to say. Time flies. Oh god, time flies.
He lets out a huff, a snort, and kind of drones out something about some royal chosen, royal decree out there to win the war on Gaia.
You speak with such brevity. I love it. I am indeed looking for that one. Honestly, the kind of Garu that I spent a very lengthy period of time with, who, even after countless nights together, cramping about in this place or that, fighting the worm wherever it dwells, nearly dying in each other's arms half the time, it makes me think that that man is inhuman in a way that I can scarcely say about other Garu. He is a paragon of the Silverfangs, if I've ever seen one. Charles, last name Albrecht. I don't know if that rings a bell for either of you. I'm hoping it does, because that's the reason I'm here.
Mountain Claw lets out a snort, and he gives what could pass as a half smile. Yeah, I remember that boy. He was giving me eyes like he wanted a piece, though he would have left with less than he brought.
So he was here.
Trillium says, yes, they did. He came accompanying malicious Jester, the Black Fury, from the Tampa Sept, and he was very short-spoken, if at all, and wearing a suit up in these mountains seems unusual at best, but
Charles could go to the surface of the sun and he would refuse to wear a spacesuit because it would cover the suit up.
But he seemed kind enough, although I could see what you mean by being a paragon of silver fangs. I definitely got that air about him, but don't they all have a little bit of that?
Not quite like Charles, I think. But that's personal experience. I don't want to disparage him in the presence of strangers or anything like that. So, but yeah, you said, what was the other Garo's name? Malicious
Jester, yes. She is the Galliard and the tale singer of their sept.
Okay. And note for the storyteller, as far as Izzy's meta knowledge, has he heard any stories about Jester? Obviously, moots sort of recite honor things throughout the nation, and also, is he even aware of a sept down in Florida? Because as far as my own player knowledge,
roll me an intelligence and politics. We'll start with that to see how much you're able to learn.
Let me. What is my rage?
I'd say you're probably at a sustained rage 2 right now, just because of what you are seeking. However, it's been a long road, so you can't sustain true anger all the time. So you're just kind of at this small simmer.
On a roll of 2 dice, I got 2 successes.
So actually, you have heard that there is a sept in Florida. You had heard stories and songs of a sept that came before, but was completely devastated and destroyed. Now, some of them survived and others fled before the destruction of the sept, and some say rightfully so, others claim it was cowardice that took them away. But ever since, about 2 or so years ago, a new sept has propped up to take their place. However, this is a sept that dabbles with stargazers, even takes them into the fold and into the trust, that they started off on a strong foot, but then after some rather controversial events are now viewed with distrust, and some even view with dislike because of what they've become and the new ideologies they seem to preach. Now, here at this sept, you're not seeing any frustrations or anger with them. If anything, they're talked in some respect because of this fantastical thing that they supposedly did. But the further you get away from Florida, the more the stories get a little more spicy. And Malicious Jester, in specific, was in the news. At least the name was in the news some almost 18 months, almost 2 years ago, when a manhunt was called for this individual. However, it slowly died out shortly after that, and no news has come up since, after a supposed terrorist attack by an organization of environmental terrorists that she was supposedly associated with. But again, that's faded. No news has cropped up since, and the world has seemingly all but forgotten about it. But there is one small detail that stands out in everything you've heard. The 3 septs that were destroyed in Michigan were supposedly destroyed doing a mission for that sept.
Izzy will start weighing what he remembers after Trillium brings it up and clarifies, and he'll go, huh, okay. Just double checking. The Florida sept, they're the ones who were doing the mission up with the Michigan people, right? Before the Black Spiral ambush killed everyone?
Well, I can't speak to the exact details of that, but I can tell you that there was some sort of arrangement reached to handle a potential problem in Florida, one that required the use of cold iron mined from the earth. And one of the biggest mines in the country apparently is in Michigan, and so they had hoped to source the iron from that location in order to stop the spread of this infection that they had spoken of in the South. And from what we're hearing, it was a success in that the infection has been stopped, but not without a great cost, it seems.
Huh. What kind of infection needs cold iron? Why not like an antibiotic or... I mean, we're Garu, we don't get sick exactly, so...
I can't speak to the details of that. I can only speculate that it was something unusual, unnatural.
Maybe some leech thing. I don't know.
Could be.
But yeah, Malicious Jester, I recognize that name. She was on like a terror watch list or something like that.
Yeah, apparently there was some more leech shenanigans that had happened. Joseph, one of our Sept mates, used to run with them briefly, and he spoke to leeches orchestrating and putting out bad names to try and draw them out or to try and get a hold of them.
Oh, okay. Do you know why she and Charles were together? Because you said they came as a group, right? Was there anyone else in the group? Did they say...
No. Well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. The first one was a member of one of the Septs that was destroyed, one of the survivors of that attack, a man named Sean Cross, a Theurge, Black Fury as well. He did not leave the encounter unscathed, as he only had one arm, seemingly, after that event. But there was also a Camazotz, a werebat, for those
I'm sorry,
unfamiliar.
I don't speak Spanish. Shrimp or...
A werebat.
Werebat.
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently they were extinct as far as we all knew, but if I hadn't seen it with my very eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. They did in fact have a werebat. Name of Xander. Odd fellow, but pleasant enough.
I think Izzy has this moment where he just sort of smiles and nods instinctively, immediately just sort of like, yeah, whatever, but seeing two elders basically front like, no, this is real, he sort of goes quiet for a moment as he realizes that perhaps not everything is as it seems to him, and he goes, okay, that's kind of profound, right? I mean...
The rumors have been flying ever since then. Are they servants of the worm that just empowered the worm? But they were there to help. This Camazotz, being seemingly the first of its kind to return ever since their extinction, was troubled. And Jester and the others were trying to help, and possibly even return the Camazotz to existence, but without the patronage of the bat spirit that is now so commonly associated with the Black Spiral dances. And as for Charles, I can only assume he was here as protection and escort, being in a rune with two Theurges and an unknown entity believed to be mythical in nature. He was there to ensure their safety and safe return to Florida.
Do you happen to know why? I mean, as far as my radar, he just sort of disappeared, and next thing I know, he's apparently coming up from a set that didn't exist a handful of years ago, and is playing bodyguard to two Garu I've never heard of. So...
Again, I can't speak to the inner workings of that, but from what I know, he was their water and worm foe of the Sept down there?
As in, he's a member.
Yes.
Like he has the time. You're certain on that? Because I've been through a lot.
I have only learned as much as I can say, but that is what I have been told, yes.
He freezes for a bit as he realizes that Charles wasn't just appearing a blip on a radar and disappearing. He apparently is coming from and returned to someplace that Izzy does not have a sort of like notion of a world beyond. And he goes, listen, I'm very appreciative for both of you, treasured elders, of allowing me in, letting me hunt, good to stretch the legs, feeding me, sleeping on a bed so nice, even if it's just the basics. I've been on the road for so long. I'm happy to get out of your hair. Do you know where the Sept in Florida is? Can you tell that to me?
Tampa, Florida is what we know, and I can sense your hesitation, but I will tell you, they have been nothing but friends of ours. They came with warning of the Black Spiral threat before any news had left the inciting event. They have contributed, and Joseph, upon his return from being part of that sept, was a very capable, or is a very capable guru, and much more knowledgeable and experienced. It is a strange philosophy that they preach. I'm sure you've heard.
I've heard they have a stargazer, which, listen, I understand the children of Gaia are a multitude, right? We all have our different ways of uniting the nation, making sure everyone works together, but staying with a tribe that essentially abandoned the nation's kind of...
I understand. I do. This one seems to be different, seems to be dedicated to the fight, albeit using unusual methods. They're not as cut off and distant as others seem to be. In fact, they led the right to build their first cairn along with our Joseph, and in meeting her, she had a southern charm to her. And while I also was very wary based off of everything I heard, I found her to be quite disarming and good-natured. But that's, again, on limited experience and information, and we've always been taught to be wary of the guiles of the stargazers, as they likely are trying to get something out of the deal. They're harmless, to be sure, but they are not to be trusted.
As Trillium sort of speaks and explains the accomplishments of the Sept of the Evening Star and this and that, Izzy keeps the sort of outward, like, oh, that's great expression, yet part of him just immediately dies around his eyes as he begins piecing together sort of the worst narrative he can imagine, which is a pack of Garu who, if not answered to, enjoyed Charles, was abandoned. And then Charles ended up in a place filled with people who very well might have killed him or turned him away or whatever, and he seems to be doing well. And there's this immediate poison in Izzy's neck as he just goes, well, it's good to hear. The nation could definitely use some wins every now and then. And yeah, do you have any questions for me? I know I basically showed up on your doorstep and...
Well, I suppose I would ask, what are you looking for?
That is a good question. I think I just want an answer.
The eternal search. Sometimes the answers we find aren't necessarily the ones we were hoping for or looking for, but...
Or the ones we make.
I will say this. I hope you find the answer you're looking for. And I hope that you get some closure, as it seems you're desperately seeking. But despite their philosophies and ideologies, as I said, they have been nothing but kind to us and have fought the fight for Gaia against the worm. So be mindful of how you approach them. If you approach with hostility, you'll be met with hostility. It is our way. Whether your issue is with Charles specifically, as it seems to be.
I'm not a very good liar on that, I guess.
Consider that the others, they're Guru like you and I. They may not know of the history you share or the experiences you've had. And if he is truly as welcomed and embraced by that sept, they will defend him, as they should. So if you're looking for a fight, at that point, Mountain Claw kind of chortles a little bit. You may get more than you bargained for.
I think for the fight I'm looking for, if it's like what Charles used to give me, I'll be able to handle it. And with that, he has a very grim expression.
Well, you're welcome to stay as long as you like. You are our guest, and you are...
I mean, I don't want to occupy a bed. I'm certain there's other people who might need it.
Perfectly
please,
fine.
Obviously, you did a great favor for me. You know, unicorns, look out for each other. But if you need anything from me while I'm here, I'll be happy to assist. Obviously, my talents are apparent. But if you need something a bit more minor, chopping wood or something like that, I can help before I head off and do something stupid. So,
well, I'll give you directions to the Sept in Georgia. There's one near that Florida border, another place for you to rest, as travel has been, well, frightful these past few weeks.
Oh,
so,
yeah, you don't need to tell me.
If you need a place to rest your head, I can send warning to them in advance or notice in advance of your arrival and make sure that you are given the nicest welcome by the Georgia Sept. In fact, many of them are our tribe mates, and I think you will find that it is a very calm place, a very welcoming place. And, well, it's not up in the mountains where it's frigid.
Yeah, the cold, I didn't want to say anything. Obviously, the cabin is very lovely, but I don't think it has insulation, so...
What do you need insulation for? You got fur?
Not right now, I don't. So... But I like that tact, just, you know, making us tough.
You can see the thick, almost like bristly fur on his, or hair on his arms, and even some peeking out from beneath his tight shirt.
Born in Glabro.
Basically, constantly. But then Trillium says, well, I'll let them know just in case you do stop by. And,
I will owe you a great favor for that, thank you. I don't think I've been to Georgia. I've been, you know, all around, but I don't think I've been to Georgia. So I will accept any invitation because I get the feeling I am trying to put on a smile and a face, but it feels difficult at times. You know, people look at you differently after everything.
Understandable. Just remember to breathe. Remember what we're here for and what our purpose is. And remember, no matter how much we consider individuals a paragon, everyone makes mistakes. We are still at least a third human after all. and humans are extremely flawed.
I'll remember that. Thank you,
Of course.
Treasured Elder. I'm not certain what your preferred title is. I honestly should have asked. Yeah, if you want to scratch my chest or whatever, we can do that, but...
You can just call me Trillium, and Mountain Claw here hasn't been one for titles. His name is his title, and that's all well enough for him, even if he is our Sept leader.
Okay. Well, thank you, Trillium, Mountain Claw. You've done an awful lot for me, and I know where to go now. So, yeah.
As you head off to spend another night at the cairn, possibly before making your way the next day, what's going through your mind after this conversation?
Izzy specifically, had a lot of assumptions based on what he heard about the initial rumor. And then the introduction that Charles might be a key member of the Sept he's never heard of, or some degree of incorporated into it. He immediately ran to the worst scenario. Just, I hate Charles, therefore anyone that has anything to do with the Sept is probably going to be an asshole. But thanks to the tempered wisdom of the elders, he at least has taken a step back and has inched his hatred window just back to Charles. As he goes, well, I mean, you know, Garu make mistakes. Like I might.
As you go to bed, resting your head in a very cold cabin, even despite the stove in the corner that is meant to help guests feel more comfortable, the events of the past play through your head as they have on repeat ever since they happened. Death, betrayal, the disintegrating of something that was believed to be untouchable once upon a time. And as you're in those final moments, as sleep is starting to take you, you hear a voice.
I see you.
Fuck is that? Izzy immediately just sort of is on alert because he has no idea. Never heard that voice before, certainly, I imagine.
Never before.
Yeah. Just immediate, like, getting ready to throw hands moment as he looks around.
As you sit up, prepared for the worst, minutes pass. Was it the edges of dream sleep? Was it a foreboding warning? Or is it just the exhaustion of holding a grudge? Needless to say, sleep does eventually take you. The voice does not return. Nothing more can be heard. And your journey will continue soon enough. This is where we transition to our next scene. Jester, ever since the events at Piney Point, a lot of the focus has been on your rest and recovery. And now, having been home for several days, you recognize that the cairn was doing a lot of heavy lifting for you, because the first few days at home were probably worse than the days preceding it. The allergies caused your nose to run. You could still feel the pains in your chest and torso. still feel a burning in your throat. Now, most of it was probably psychological, but there was some physical care. That healing, calming energy that the Sept, the cairn, gives. Not present here in the apartment that you share with Charles. And on top of all of that, while he has been a dutiful caretaker, Charles has been distant ever since the events of that night. Older. Withdrawn. So, as you find yourself feeling a little bit better this evening, actually maybe back to your true self as much as you can be, maybe this is the new normal, it's hard to say, having never had an experience like that before, you find him in the kitchen cooking dinner, preparing yet another one of his exquisite meals. And the scene is yours.
I'm going to kind of run in from the bedroom and just like look at him, just like, look, and I'll like turn around and do like this arch of my back to like bend it enough that like my fingertips will brush the counter, and then I'll stand back up and be like, I don't feel any pain.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. He then turns back to the saucepan he has going on the stove.
I mean, I was hoping for a little more than good, you know, like woohoo, like we can actually do some physical things, but I mean, I guess I'll take that.
He catches himself and sets the pan down and turns the stove down to a low simmer, and then turns to you and goes to wrap his arms around you and says, my apologies, I was distracted. Of course, it's wonderful news, and I'm glad that you're feeling better. I've never worried for you as much as I did that day, not even when you were gone for days in the Umbra. That was unlike anything I've ever encountered, and that is a very short list. And he raises a hand to press against your cheek. I'm glad you're well, and I'm glad you're here with me, because I couldn't imagine you being anywhere else, even with the promise of eternity as trees, or whatever that deal with the devil we made is. I don't want to be anywhere where you're not.
Are you regretting choosing to, I don't know, be with me, feel like emotions?
His brow furrows and he kind of steps a little bit back from you, but keeping his arms on, or his hands on you. He puts his hands on your shoulders and looks you dead in the eye. You are one of the only things in this life I don't regret. Never think otherwise. And his eyes kind of move askance. I could have killed him. I would have killed him. The idea of losing you, let alone having to watch it right in front of my eyes, unable to do anything. Everything I've been taught, everything I've prided myself on, vanished, broke away. I lost control, and I worry that Jason will never forgive me for it.
Reach up and rub his arms. I know this is a, newish concept that I haven't been saying for months, but maybe you could try talking to him. If you feel bad, maybe apologize.
I did immediately. And the look in his face, in his eyes, he looked so betrayed.
Yeah. I mean, I could understand that. But, I mean, on your side, you'd also been in Krynos for a lot longer than you usually are.
It's not even the longest I've had to be. And control was never an issue.
So it's feelings again.
It's my responsibility to protect my sept, my pack. And never before has it been more trying than it has been here. And I mean that in the best possible way. But I never was the problem. I never was the threat. My methods could be medieval at times in teaching, but I would never truly harm anyone under my care. And I almost did.
I frenzied once. I was lucky there was really no one around me when it kind of happened. I mean, technically, Aiden was nearby, but we were fighting this starving revenant on this frozen rink. Well, it was in the Umbra, so it turned into be like a giant, endless, bottomless frozen lake. And it was shortly after everything happened with Steno, and I had a lot of anger and frustration at not being able to do anything, being powerless. And I kind of let it go in that moment. And the Remnant and I went into the lake. I nearly drowned, but I managed to pull myself out of it before I got lost in the deepness. So, yeah. It's
A few thoughts or comments, if you don't mind.
Go on.
As a secret, we can't drown. So you can keep that in mind. But also, just once, some Black Fury you are. And you can see that a little bit of the glimmer return to his eyes that has been absent for so long.
Okay, you're getting better at those. Better. But it's fair, we couldn't drown. I would have probably just become a starving revenant. Got lost in the Umbra.
That won't happen again. But what happened with don't even know if I'm allowed to call him Jace anymore. What happened with Dreams of Decay reminded me the distance I keep, why I've avoided connection for so long, because that scared, an angry look in his eye, that cut me deeper than any attack or battle I've encountered in the past. And I've had to duel with Claves at the age of 17.
17, that's not a bad age to, like, finally introduce you to fighting with Silver, so.
Well,
at
I'd
least,
finally had my first change, so they thought it was time to up the ante.
Of course. Look, I have thoughts. Okay.
You heard mine.
I have a question first. Do you want to go back to putting distance between yourself and people?
I don't know if it's a want or a need. That distance kept me from getting passionate or enraged, or it was a responsibility. And that's all it needed to be. But the caring, the emotional investment, I fear it makes me vulnerable and weak and able to be exploited, which is a very unfamiliar sensation for me. Besides, I don't think you'd ever let me.
If you wanted to, I wouldn't stop you. I'd be terribly hurt and fucked up, but I wouldn't stop you.
Are you sure you're one of Gorgon's? Like, sure. Doubly sure.
Maybe I'm just taking it a different way. Or maybe I'm saving it for the right ones. And also, I might slash your tires in the hurt and fucked up way, but I still wouldn't stop you. I'd just, punish you for it. That sound more like Gorgon? Okay, cool. Now we're going to get to the part that, I'm going to start to sound a little bit up by Artie, but I don't have cool glasses to do this, so you just get me. It sounds like your distance is one of the coping mechanisms you developed through your childhood growing up. And that helped you keep that control. However, you are unpacking a lot of that lately, and you are learning to emotionally connect with others. And so that distance doesn't work for control. You have to find a new way. It protected you in those moments because you had set it up that way, but this is all new to you. So those same coping mechanisms don't work. Have you ever thought of, I don't know, maybe trying to understand your wolf side or your spirit side more? Might help.
He kind of rolls his eyes slightly. Well, first, your words have a lot of truth, but they're far more enticing coming from you than the poor man's college professor.
Don't call Artie. That is mean.
I'm sure he's called me much worse.
Yeah, he has.
And secondly, maybe you're right. I always thought of the wolf side as a tool, a weapon, an ability. But as much as I felt out of control, as much as I wanted with every fiber of my being to stop what was happening, I'd be lying if I said a part of me didn't enjoy it. At least when I was destroying that little goat person.
There's definitely a release there. I think this is just from what you've told me. They tried to turn you into a weapon. And in doing that, they cut you off from all parts of you. But the human, the wolf, the spirit, they're not tools. They're pieces of us.
It's funny that you say that. I've heard that before. I haven't talked a great deal about where I came from and everything that's happened because, well, in all that mention of regret, this is one of them. When responsibility and duty overtake personal feelings, I've had to do things that I don't now in retrospect think were the best. But because I was told to, because I was ordered to, I followed orders. And I don't want to make that same mistake again. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Obviously, I'm a heretic in the eyes of my family if they ever hear of the things I've done, or that he takes a pause to look you up and down or are currently doing.
Hopefully soon.
I thought I was doing what was best. And it's only because of you and everything that's happened since I've gotten you that I'm truly starting to see the past for what it was. Frankly, I'm having to face a lot of regret and hurt that I've avoided. But some damage can't be undone. Some mistakes can't be unmade.
Get that. I guess we just have to try to make it up in different ways. If we can't fix the thing we broke, maybe we could try to make something better. If not there, somewhere else.
We are making something better. You are making something better.
You are too.
While that whole trip to Virginia seemed like folly, a pointless exercise, you once again proved just how right you are and just how wrong the rest of us have been.
Maybe, but even if you didn't fully believe it was true, you still supported me. So you're still making it happen.
I will always support you. Agree with you, certainly not, but I support you.
That makes things spicy, doesn't it? It'd be boring if you agreed with me on everything.
Yes.
So if you want to try to get in touch with your wolf side, you could come on runs with me. Do something not hunting wise, just run.
This entire state is a swamp.
Yeah?
How can you stand the smell, let alone the sand getting everywhere?
I mean, it's kind of like when you jump in cold water. After a while, you get used to it, and you just stop it. Like you adjust, and you just ignore the smell and the sensations. Like, and just focus on the good things. I mean,
Tell
if you
that
want,
to
we can
my
go on a
dry
road trip.
cleaning bill. The number of shoes and pants and jackets I've had to dispose of.
Yeah, I mean, you could try buying secondhand clothes that don't require dry cleaning to clean when they get really dirty.
I'll be a tree before that happens.
Well, fine. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Besides, no one wears secondhand better than you, even though I insist you don't have to.
I'm trying not to, feed into the capitalistic hellhole that is the fashion industry. I try to buy things that have already been made and used because they're still usable instead of relying on things to be made more and the cost it is to Gaia.
Charles just takes a deep breath and lets out a sigh as if he's heard this speech many, many times from you before. As I said, you wear it well.
Well, thank you.
But please don't tell me where these colorful ties are coming from, because if they're a secondhand store, I will strangle myself on them.
They've been very well sourced.
Sure they have. He pulls you into his arms. I'm sorry, I've been so distant. I don't want to lose you again and feel so helpless and out of control again like that.
I look up at him. That moment is the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. I was in a lot of pain. I was confused because I didn't know what was happening or didn't really understand it. I could feel what was happening. I didn't understand it. But I also wanted to live. And I did. I survived. And after everything that this world has thrown at me, I'm still here. And I want to be here with you. So, no matter how far I go, I will do my damnedest to come back to you. And I hope that alleviates some of that fear.
Still trying to compensate the fact that it was leech alchemy that saved you.
And Aspen's quick thinking, really Aspen.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Aspen would do anything for her pack.
But yeah.
Even strange, unusual science experiments.
It worked.
Did.
And I suppose I owe a thank you to Spud.
No, you don't. I'm pretty sure the money he's been given and supplies that Aspen has gotten him and everything else is thanks enough.
Well, you know. I probably should make one and go hang out with him, because I said I would. It's a long story. There's going to be things in exchange for it. Convincing him not to deal drugs.
Very well. At least I know if anything untoward were to happen, you can handle yourself with that one.
What about sleeping in lupus form? You could just like sleep on the couch. It's kind
And
of
I have fur on the couch, as you've shown me.
We could put a blanket down.
And get fur on my blanket?
Charles, my love, at this point, you've lived with me long enough. We do not just have one blanket. Or two. We have more blankets.
I used to have one blanket, and one glass, and one plate, and one fork, and knife, and spoon. But thanks to you, I have a multitude now.
It's not even a multitude. It's just like a set.
How many do you
set-
need?
3.
Then you're just too lazy to wash them.
I'll accept that. Also, your pot's kind of boiling.
He turns back and turns the knob, bringing the heat down. I think this could sit for a while. And then he gives you a look.
Good. I'm going to run to the bedroom.
As he follows after, the connection that you've been missing, despite his physical presence, returns. The warmth returns. And while there is still some obvious hesitation at the idea of getting in touch with his wolf side of connection, for just a few moments, for one blissful evening, as usual, you take his cares away, as he does yours. And with that, we transition to our final scene of the evening. Another introduction, though this one is sure to be unusual compared to the others, as we visit Murphy McNamara, human. Murphy, boy, what a checkered life you've lived. Being a immigrant from Ireland at a very, very young age, brought over by your Irish revolutionary parents, who themselves have had a very interesting life. You've started to make your own way. You've started to make your own life, your own forms of rebellion. And while they may not be with gun or knife, there are other ways to fight a revolution. But revolutions cost money. And money isn't necessarily the easiest thing to come by with the life you've lived, but you've found a way. Besides, credit card companies are just scams anyway. And you have your next target. as you sit at your computer, a laptop open on your lap, typing rapidly, why don't you describe where we are?
Murphy is sitting in the dark room of the 3-bedroom apartment that he shares with his acquaintance roommates. That money that you talked about was better spent on shared rent rather than trying to afford in this climate a single, even by himself. So Murphy has very little in personal belongings or amenities in this room. Easily the only thing of actual merit or value is his computer setup and the screens and peripherals that he's picked up to add a little bit of visual interest to that setup that he keeps on his desk, the lights and his speakers and headphones, as he's working diligently to set up this scam. He is lit only by the 3 monitors that he has, and there's a quiet music playing in the background, something to keep his mind from wandering off of his task and to mellow out the background noise that might be caused by those roommates or outside. And he lives close to a lot of nightlife and city where he prefers to be, but regrets when he's trying to focus. So he's sitting alone, and it's quiet, it's dark, but he's fully dressed, ready to leave if he needs to.
As you're typing, I'd like you to roll me a wits and technology check as you are trying to find a good pathway, a good target to focus your efforts onto. Someone who won't necessarily be unduly harmed by the scam as an individual, but the company will pay. And they'll probably even refund them the money if they find out that it was fraud that happened. And you've become so practiced at this, you don't even need to worry about covering your tracks. You're an expert.
It'll be 3 successes on 6 dice.
With 3 successes, you start to go down the rabbit hole of finding a target. Now it's usually your practice to aim for big corporate entities or people who are immeasurably wealthy. And you know who is wealthy? Lawyers. Lawyers are wealthy. And you've hit enough of the big names throughout the country and in the area of Tampa where you live that you decide maybe you could go a little bit smaller. Lower hanging fruit. So you find the name of a DA or a former DA from Chicago named Anna Pelfrey, who seems to have set up shop in Tampa with someone else named Aspen Weiss, who you don't know who that is, and it doesn't really matter. You start to navigate the thorough path of going into the credit card accounts. Now you are a practiced hand, and you are able easily to make your way in. Boy, do they have a credit limit. This could make for a mighty meal. And again, they'll probably get the money back. They're lawyers. They could sue the credit card companies. They could do a number of things. They won't even know it's gone. So now that you're in the code, you start to move the money around. Your prompt that you're typing with stops. And then your screen goes black. A moment later, a dot a cursor appears. And then a message comes through from the user handle IH8 Mondays. Who's entered my backyard? Is the message.
Aware of the kind of cryptic game that sometimes happens between two people in a online anonymous space like this one, Murphy rolls their eyes and types back, "A friendly wanderer who found an open gate."
I think you'll find that this gate is very much closed. But I like to catch a stray every now and then. And then all of a sudden, your screen changes and windows start opening up, various browser windows, as you can see that almost like a remote desktop function has happened on your computer. You see an article pop up about revolutionaries in Ireland. You see a driver's license photo pop up of you. And then you see a YouTube clip pop up from a dated movie. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. Jurassic Park. Of a heavy set man with glasses going, you didn't say the magic word.
At first, Murphy is panicked and caught off guard, perhaps a little too secure in their sense and their ability, and the fact that at this hour, surely nobody would be paying attention to any kind of transfers, and surely this mark was a safe one. And they jump up and they reach over for their nearby switch, ready to shut the internet connection off immediately and prevent any more dangerous information from being leaked. But then upon seeing all of the different movement on their screens, there's a curiosity and a fascination that strikes Murphy after realizing that enough of their information has been leaked. There isn't really any point in shutting it off or trying to run. Rather, this is the kind of game that someone like Murphy plays. That this isn't a government sting, that this isn't something that's going to land Murphy in prison. So instead, that curiosity leads Murphy to sit back down and watch and pay attention and start to wonder, how is this happening? How did they get me? What did I miss? Maybe I could use it myself after I figure it out. And then the mocking message appears, and that sense of security comes back, realizing that this is a game and that there isn't maybe as much danger, though there might be some interesting outcomes to follow.
As that initial anxiety hit, and as your heart was pounding in your chest, you could hear it pounding in your ears as well, almost like a rhythmic drum beat. Boom, 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 boom. But then as you took a deep breath and became more curious and interested, the drum beat faded, the pounding faded. You sit back down at the computer and you watch. Roll me a intelligence and technology roll.
Six successes on 7 dice.
You think back over everything you've done over the recent few months, and you remember a kind of code cracking, gatekeeping software that you downloaded called OD, OD exclamation point 3. That's the only thing you've brought onto your computer that you didn't create, that you didn't manifest. That was probably the access point, if any. But then as some of the screens close, the little clip goes away. The prompt appears again from I Hate Mondays, and it says, if you're going to go fishing, go for a whale. And another screen pops up. Ballard, Anderson, and Bateman. And then an account number appears. Don't say there isn't honor amongst thieves. And then the prompt goes away. Your desktop returns, still on that Ballard, Anderson, and Bateman screen. And you find that you have control once more of your computer.
Murphy sighs and says out loud to themselves alone in their room, this is supposed to be the part where you set up a meeting place, not give me a fucking job. And Murphy starts to look over the website and try to figure out what might be the next avenue, how they're going to find a way into this, which they have no current leads on and isn't as easy as the one they've spent those countless hours digging up just a moments ago.
Let's get focused on the work, pouring your efforts into this new task after a few eye rolls and frustratedly tapping your fingers on your desk. You see that the cybersecurity of this particular organization is strong. Very strong. But nothing's unbreakable. And yes, it will take time, probably more time than the last one. But from the sounds of it, that payout is great. And as you do your work, the keys tapping and typing, you kind of chuckle to yourself because now it's a challenge. Now it's fun again. You've liked the effort. The reward is just icing on the cake. Knowing that you can do it is what's the best part. So as you chuckle, in your head, the chuckle sounds like, you blink for a moment. That was weird. But you go back to typing, focusing your efforts on the task that lays ahead. This is just the beginning of a long and winding road for Murphy McNamara. A road that will take him to places he couldn't even imagine, and up against enemies that could very well spell his end. But not tonight, because this is where our story comes to a close. But not without a few final scenes, as it is a season premiere after all. Our first scene takes us to a remote location, high in the mountain, but not the Appalachian Mountain. No, this is the Rockies. This is Colorado. This is the Sept of the Unrelenting. And why are they unrelenting, you might ask? Because their leader is unrelenting. And their leader is Ravenclaw. As she walks through an open pasture, the sounds of fighting are happening all around. And as we look outward, we see sparring happening left and right as members of her sept, her army, prepare to fight. But to be honest, they always stay prepared. As she makes it to the end of the line, Gibbous, a young woman, much shorter, much more diminutive frame, comes running up. Raven, Jester's calling. And she holds out the phone where a caller ID shows Jester's face smiling, her arms wrapped around Raven and Gibbous. Raven reaches over for the phone and then just crushes it. Her hand. Not yet, she says as she drops the pieces of the phone to the ground. Gibbous takes a nervous breath and then says, "You're going to have to forgive her eventually." No. Raven's response as she turns and goes back down the line of her soldiers, her army. Our next scene takes us somewhere much more peaceful. A farm in Georgia. The snow is still very much ever present, but the work doesn't stop. You have to prepare for the spring planting. You have to prepare for the harvest to come later that year. And if it's going to be a bountiful one, you start early. And Terrence starts early, just as he was taught. But Terrence looks so much more mature and older, having been a guru for more than a year at this point, having learned at the feet of some great guru. His hair is done up in cornrows on his head, helping keep it out of the way and keeping it managed and orderly. It almost looks like lines of crops atop his head, one after another. He wears workers' clothes, overalls, a loose-fitting shirt, but he has a braided necklace around his neck with a small wolf totem at the bottom. He goes into the barn, taking off his winter coat and hanging it up. He goes to start preparing the seeds, getting them ready to be planted as soon as the weather allows. And a voice calls in from the outside. "Terrence, we got company. Newcomer from up north, saying he's going to stay a while. Why don't you come be part of the welcoming committee?" "Yeah, all right, sounds good." And he tosses the seeds off the side and starts making his way out of the barn. And in our final scene, we find ourselves in a mansion. A mansion in Vermont. The royal seat that was, now just a hollowed shell of its former glory. Two men talk off to the side, unrecognizable but unmistakably distinguished. Part of the elder council of the Silver Fangs, not just the Sept of the North Country, no, the entire tribe. And neither of them is the king. One says to the other, "Have you found him?" The other says, "We finally caught Tail. He was last seen in Georgia, or last seen in Virginia. And word has it, he's shacking up in Florida with, well, an interesting bit of company." The first man frowns, and his frowns show off just how many wrinkles he has. His white hair clinging to his head. After everything I've taught him, that stupid boy still doesn't learn. Maybe it's time he comes back for a re-education. And this is where our story comes to a close this evening. Thank you so much to these amazing players. Thank you to everybody watching at home. We're back, baby. Hellhounds returns on Friday. We're going to have another episode of Rage Across Tampa next Tuesday. And thank you so much to our new cast members who are making things even more interesting. Go sign up to become a member on our Ko-fi so that you can see the Rosebud Thorn session that happens right after this session, because those are going to be available going forward to members of our Ko-fi. So go sign up ASAP. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time, everyone. Have a lovely evening.